You want to take it last second? Colleagues, friends, and esteemed guests, welcome. We are here today to open the Hakim BenYounes Lecture Theatre. Commemorative plaque states Hakim BenYounes, surgeon, leader, colleague, and friend. With a surgical career spanning nearly 30 years, his credentials range from benefiting the lives of countless patients to attaining fellowship of the Royal College of Surgeons in Edinburgh and the Royal College of Surgeons, United Kingdom. For 7 years, he was the Chief of Medical Services at University Hospital, Wishaw. And in recent times, he helped steer the hospital through the challenges of COVID. So his leadership was in no doubt. Heather Knox, NHS Lanarkshire Chief Executive, said on the occasion of his passing, Hakim was a true gentleman and will be missed by the very many staff and patients alike whose lives he touched. He was a kind and compassionate colleague who knew many staff individually and took the time to make sure those in the wider hospital community were being cared for. Throughout the hospital, Hakim was a very approachable, kind and considerate colleague. He was Mr. Wishaw General. His compassionate and collegial qualities did not go unnoticed. Looking around at the assembled guests this afternoon, it is clear that he made friends of his colleagues, and many of them are here today. Mr. Martin Downey started in Wishaw in 2005 and was mentored by Hakim for the first year. That mentorship lasted nearly 16 years. And I'm so grateful to Hakim for everything he taught me. He was fantastic to work for. Miss Linda MacDonald said Hakim had a huge ability to instill confidence and worked hard to inspire a cohesive team spirit. A technically gifted man. It is his kindness I will most remember. Dr. Gregor Smith, the Chief Medical Officer for Scotland, said of Hakim, "It was a privilege to have worked and occasionally shared a beer or two with him. The protocols around COVID prevented many from paying respects at his funeral. So perhaps it is even more fitting that we now have the opportunity to share aspects of his life and celebrate his memory today. Hakim BenYounes, surgeon, leader, colleague and friend. A man of the people, for the people. So we are here today to open this lecture theatre in his name. And what a fitting tribute it is. When he received the prestigious William Cullen Award in 2019, Elaine Tate, the Chief Executive of the Royal College of Physicians in Edinburgh, said this: "Through this award, we wanted to celebrate Hakim's valuable contribution to supporting junior doctors and trainees and improving services for patients. We want people to know what a tremendous asset Hakim is to NHS Lanarkshire, University Hospital Wishaw, and to patients in Lanarkshire. Because education of others was an integral part of his career." The author, Laura Lippman, once said that professional development is a collective resource, not a personal prerogative. Peer engagement forges powerful links between teacher learning and student growth. So this excellent facility here that will bear Hakim's name will certainly promote his value of learning and student growth. It is my honour and privilege to invite Susan, wife of Hakim, to unveil a memorial plaque in honour of her late husband, Mr. Hakim BenYounes, surgeon, leader, colleague and friend. Thank you, Susan. What an honour it is today for us to be here with you to open this lecture theatre in Hakim's name. Each and every single person here feels privileged to be here. But there are others here also who are better equipped in knowledge and experience to share memories of Hakim. Mr. Gavin Bryce, who wrote a touching obituary for Hakim, published in the British Medical Journal, was a fellow surgeon here at University Hospital Wishaw. Gavin shares an interest in education through his research. I googled Gavin and found that on one website he had 100% feedback rating in terms of care satisfaction. Interestingly, the one sample I found had a surname very similar to Bryce, along with other 99. Gavin's obituary tribute revealed in many ways that he was not only a fellow surgeon to Hakim, but also a friend, and I would suspect a fan of Hakim. Dr. Kenneth Dagg, Chief of Medical Services, is a consultant in respiratory and general medicine here at University Hospital Wishaw, but has also served as a clinical director and as the lead for educational governance in the medical directorate. In addition, he was a committee member for the West of Scotland Deanery. He was Director of Medical Examinations at the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons of Glasgow from 2009 to 2013, before taking up appointment as the MRCP UK Associate Medical Director for Clinical Examinations and most recently Medical Director for Assessment. His education credentials are admirable. He was also a friend of Hakim's. But just for fulsomeness, when I googled Ken, he had no completed reviews on the satisfaction website. So there's no point looking for his summary. I am sure today he has much to say about the qualities and the experience of Hakim. I stand here today in the company of greatness. Surgeons, consultants, many people. As a wee poor good-looking chapman. But it's an absolute privilege to be here with you today to honour Hakim's memory. So may I now invite and welcome an educator, a fellow surgeon, a friend to Hakim, and the clinical director of surgery to share some thoughts and memories of Hakim. So please welcome Mr. Gavin Bryce, followed by Dr. Kenneth Dye.
Thanks, Harry. For those that don't know me, my name is Gavin Bryce and I am Clinical Director of Surgery here in University Hospital Wishaw. I knew Hakim in a number of guises. His close colleagues. As close colleagues working side by side with surgeons, as a mentor who provided great advice and incredible support throughout my professional career, but most of all, I knew Hakim as a close friend. So when I speak today, I'm privileged to be able to do so not just having known him professionally, but also personally. Hakim was born in Tripoli, Libya, in October 1959, with 2 brothers and 3 sisters. He studied medicine at Al Fatah University in Tripoli, graduating in 1983. He then worked in Tripoli before travelling to Scotland in 1987, where he planned to set a fellowship at the Royal College of Surgeons examinations and take that qualification back to Libya. He first worked in the Southern General in Glasgow and then took what would be a faithful job in Law Hospital. It was here he met Susan, who was a medical registrar at the time, and he decided to stay on in Scotland a bit longer. Hakim later took a research post in Aberdeen. He did so well that he was offered a higher surgical training number in Oxford. But Aberdeen wanted him to stay, and he wanted to stay in Scotland with Susan. And so he was offered and took up a similar training number in Aberdeen. Hakim and Susan soon married, January 1996. And as a testament to the way that Hakim's warmth and kindness is felt by all, they received an unexpected gift of a bottle of champagne on their honeymoon, sent as a surprise from Hakim's very first research participant in Aberdeen. Hakim completed his training and was appointed in Law Hospital as a consultant surgeon in 1998, where he worked alongside Susan, a consultant in diagnostic radiology. They kept their own surnames, which is commonplace for married couples working in the same hospital. However, it caught a few people out. Not least the enthusiastic surgical trainee who phoned their house in the middle of the night, asking for the on-call radiologist, that night a Dr. Susan Mead, and requested an overnight CT. Susan quite rightly asked the trainee, "Have you spoken to your consultant about this?" For the unsuspecting and maybe unfortunate trainee to say yes. For Susan to say, "Oh really? Let me just ask him, Hakim, do you know anything?" Over the following years, Hakim did many things, but one of his biggest achievements was building a respected esophagogastric, or gullet and stomach, surgical resectional practice. And it really was respected. He was listened to at national and international meetings, and it was through what he said and the respect that others had for him that he was listened to. His colleague Hassan Qassem and now myself have inherited that practice, and will continue to do what we can to protect his legacy. His management roles were many. He was specialty cancer lead for upper GI cancer whilst already in the post of clinical director of surgery, until appointed associate medical director. He later took up post as chief of medical services, which allowed him to continue his clinical work. And through all of this, he was supported by his hard-working secretary, Claire Gallagher, who at times seemed to be able to organise chaos, and his friend and colleague Linda MacDonald, who faithfully supported him and supported his clinical responsibilities. Hakim was also an advocate for quality improvement and medical education, and rightly as a result received an invitation to meet Prince William at the 70th anniversary celebration of the NHS, and later won the William Cullis Award. Hakim achieved in many ways throughout his career, but there was much more to Hakim than his professional achievements. The way in which he carried out his day-to-day duties was inspirational. He made time for anyone that needed it, gave a smile for everyone, and always respected and praised the hard work of others. He treated every person the same, regardless of their position, and his influence was felt throughout the hospital. He exuded warmth, and in the words of my wife, he was probably the kindest person she or we had ever met. That kindness was always there. As a family, we loved our trips to visit Hakim and Susan in our home in Clyde Valley. To this day, the boys still love exploring the giant garden and having adventures. Both Hakim and Susan created so many memories for us. Whether it be a decorated tree and a handmade Rudolph ready for us when we arrived, after visiting Santa, or having lots of treats prepared and then playing football in the field next to the house. However, the most memorable visit was our very first visit. In anticipation of our arrival, Hakim had a 4-layer, no calories spared, ginormous white chocolate cake. He cut it into 4 pieces and offered a piece to our then 4-year-old twin boys. Finlay wasn't sure, but Matthew went for it, scoffing down the entire quarter cake. Needless to say, the 45-minute drive home was challenging. First scraping the sugar-rushed Matthew off the roof, then settling him into his seat to then carry a sleeping child out quietly from the seat, into the house, up the stairs, to then be projectile vomited. Not just me, but the whole carpet and banister and the wall, leaving a silhouette of my body tied within a wall stick. When Hakim found out, he was mortified, but I believe it was to become a standing joke in the BenYounes household. And I must thank him. 6 years later, Matthew still remembers that day and has never eaten too much cake again. Hakim left us too soon, but as you've heard, he accomplished so much. His talent, generosity of spirit, kindness and sense of humour will always be remembered by all that were fortunate enough to. I'm now going to pass the baton on to Dr. Ken Dagg, President of Medical Services, to say some words.
Real privilege to be able to say a few words today. I'm really pleased that we've been able to name the lecture theatre the Hakim BenYounes lecture theatre, because I think there is no better legacy to Hakim than we know and love. And I know that he'll be looking down and he'll be immensely proud of everything he achieved. I thank Gavin for his very kind words about Hakim, and I'm going to be maybe a little bit more selfish in terms of my reflections and my thoughts about Hakim. I guess, first of all, as a surgical colleague, I'm a respiratory physician, as Harry said. As a leader of our community, and this is a community on this hospital site, and I cannot emphasise that enough. As an advocate for patients, he was passionate about the best possible care for patients. The quality improvement was foremost in his mind always. And he was a passionate supporter of training and education. And I think the trainees on this site benefited hugely from that and from the support that he gave to them. He was a massive presence. He was also the boss. You know what? He managed to walk that line that lots of bosses can't walk. It's about being a supporter, it's about being respected, It's about making the right decisions at the right time. And he walked that line better than any of us can ever imagine. And I think, as Gavin said, a friend. I think he was a friend to everybody, wherever you were, whatever you did. So if I think back to when I started at law, I heard about the law mafia. I was hinting a little bit at that as a young, and I now look back, very naive respiratory physician. And Hakim and I had a bit of trade, because there was only 2 chest physicians then, and Hakim and I had a fair bit of trade because the lungs are very close to the esophagus, as I used to tell them. In fact, the lungs get the esophagus in the right place. And we had a bit of chat over cancer patients who were more complex, who were less clear diagnostically. And as all good respiratory physicians, I wanted him to operate on everybody that had a cough. And he used to look, and he was always around. You could always find him. He was always approachable. I never once saw him, and he was not approachable. He was always friendly, even though I was a young, naive chest physician. And he listened. He would always hear you out, and he would be thoughtful about what you said. The end result was that I always felt that he was supporting me, but very few patients ever got operations. And when I look back at the 20 years, he was right. He just knew it, and he did it in a very nice way, and that's something that I've learned. And he was a mentor, so even me as a physician felt mentored, and I think that's a huge part. He was a great believer in the apprenticeship. It wasn't about competence; it was about that apprenticeship. And as time evolved and moved on, and we both moved through professional medical management, ultimately Hakim ending up as the chief on this side, he became a leader. And he was always a leader, but he became that leader, and he became the boss. And I've often reflected on what made him a good boss, or actually a great boss. Because I think in medicine, you learn from those who go before you. And I'm a great believer in the apprenticeship, despite the way that medical training now operates. And I can see 2 or 3 people in my career who I think are standout, that truly learn from. And I think I learned a lot of things from Hakim. And I was still learning. His belief in people was unwavering. He saw the best, and he saw the potential, and he never dismissed anything. He was passionate about building teams and making those teams work, and he facilitated the way those teams work, and he mentored the people in those teams. And I think that was a phenomenal skill, and it was always done in a very relaxed and calm way, usually sitting in a chair. He listened, and he listened endlessly to me, and as many of you in this room know, I can talk. And he always heard me out, but he also made decisions. And that was hugely important. And that's that line that he walked really well. And he was respected for that. He did well-being like no other boss I've ever known. And he did well-being long before well-being was politically correct. He actually did it. And you'd be unwell at home and the phone would ring. And it would be Hakim saying, "Are you okay? Is there anything I can do?" And it was genuine. Utterly genuine. And I think that's the mark of the man. Hugely supportive. He was passionate about training. Gavin talked about some of the roles he had in training and the recognition of that passion. The chief residents and the implementation of that on the site, the support for the residents, the recognition of the value that they would bring to the site. Quality improvement was a huge thing that he enjoyed, and in part because it was so strongly supported by trainees. And he always said to me, he was absolutely right, quality improvement on a site is a barometer of the health of that site, more so than lots of other things that we measure. He says that's your true note. Clinicians and healthcare professionals engaged in that, it's working well, you're doing something right. Hugely intuitive. And there was the broader work that he did for NHS Lanarkshire. And I don't think many of us in this group really recognise or realise how much work he did and how much time he spent doing it. Susan does, because I was involved in so many three-way phone calls, often at night or early in the morning, where we would be chatting through something to a decision. He worked hugely hard. But I guess mostly I'm going to remember him as a friend, a true friend. And he was friends with us all. You know, you walked along the corridor with Hakim and it would take half an hour. He would stop, he would say hello to everybody, he would know their name, he would know something about it. And that's back to that community. He understood the importance of that community. And it came across every minute, every hour, every day. And I think everybody on the site benefited from it. I recall, because it's already been mentioned that Hakim liked the beard, did like the beard, but I feel like a glass of wine as well. But he would always take an opportunity to meet. And I recall it was a weekend where Jennifer and I and Susan Hakim just happened to be away this weekend, staying locally in Perthshire. We said, let's meet for a beer on Saturday night. We managed to rustle up a babysitter. So where are you staying? So we're staying some accommodation down the hill. We're staying in the hotel up the hill. Why don't we meet in the hotel bar? We got to Saturday night. We didn't get out in those days because the kids were young, dressed up, got the babysitter, got the kids off to bed, walked up and sitting having, you know, a glass of wine and a beer. Nothing, 10 minutes, nothing. Go out on the phone and start. Hold them. He said, well, where are you? I said, well, we're in the hotel bar. He said, well, we're in the hotel bar. And we had managed between the two of us to take the hotel accommodation lower down as us being in Crieff and Susan and Hakim being in Kilmarnock. And I've often reflected with a lot of concern in the sense that we were also the chief and deputy for a fairly sizable site. But he liked going for it, and that was it. The other great project that I loved and I felt I was part of, and I felt I almost built it with the house. And we spent every Monday the pictures of the house, what had been done, what had been decided, who he had got in to do it. And I think that Susan knows he started that project in every bit of the house. But you know, that was how he conducted his business. And that to me is the mark of it. So, like all of you, it's a great privilege to have known him, proud to have worked with him, proud to be a friend. And I think that this lecture theatre will be the legacy that we all want, because this would have been so important to him and the values that he stood for. So I can look back very fondly over the last 20 years to someone who I saw as a surgical colleague, a boss, and a very good boss, but most importantly, someone who I felt was a friend. I know that that will resonate with everybody else.
Before I begin my closing remarks, I'm pleased to be able to welcome up Susan, who was married to Hakim for over 20 years and would like to say a few words.
It's my appropriate clap. I'll give this a shot. We just have to sit down. See here we go. I'd like to say thank you. Thank you to all for turning this. It's actually a very sad day into something that's been extremely special. Thank you so much. Let's say everyone's a good day. I am so hoping that my family in Tripoli, Egypt, are able to join us. Sometimes they have trouble with the internet, but I do hope that they have been able to join in and to see what's been said today, to see the plaque and to hear the comments that have been made. He was very, very close to his family, very fond of them, and for various reasons in the last few years, obviously, he's not been able to see them, not been able to visit, they've not been able to come over here. And it's been a very hard year for them too, and I hope they get some comfort just from hearing the words that have been said today. The NHS, of course, was his other big family. He was such a supporter of the NHS, the whole idea of it, the people who worked within it, and the patients that came to it. And of course, NHSL and Universal Hospital Wishaw were so special in his eyes. He was delighted when he was put forward as one of the representatives for NHSL to be introduced to Prince William at the 70th anniversary celebrations. He just so pleased. There's a picture that I've seen a few times at the Pulse, and it's up in the endoscopy suite, and he's standing in his suit with a broad grin, and that was that night. He was just so delighted to be there, that whole experience. And the William Cullen Award, he always felt that a lot of the work that's done in the NHS just goes unappreciated, and to get an award for something he felt so passionate about was fabulous for him. And initially he was a leader of the Chief of Medical Services, but he looked upon the whole thing as a team game. He very much loved his support role as well as his leadership role. And I can't think, I think it was pandemic stuff that was going on, and there had been lots of wrangling backwards and forwards and frustration, and we've got to, we shouldn't, but can't, you know. And then eventually the text came through, and it was, Hakim, we've got your back. And he was just so pleased. That was what it was all about. It was pulling together, it was being together, recognising what we had done and just getting on with it. And I'm so grateful to those, everyone who worked with him, to be such an inspiration to him, to give him such pleasure at what was actually a pretty challenging job. And we've had some lovely tributes today from Harriet, Gavin and Kenneth. And I've had such support over the past year. When Hakim died, there were so many cards, so many flowers. When people called to say, we come on, they say, could you bring vases? They were just everywhere. The house smelled gorgeous, beautiful flowers. And then, of course, the books of condolence, which were a very hard read, the three of them, but very lovely. But as I say, quite a tough read. And I was interested to see how many there were, and cards that came to the door, not just from great friends and people I knew and colleagues and people that supported, but from people that said, you don't know me, but I just wanted to let you know how sad I am. I want this. He was such a big guy. And as for the lecture theatre, like everyone said, I can't think of a more appropriate tribute for him. I was sorting out images on his camera, and I came across a little batch of pictures, and he's over there, junior doctor, getting prizes for presentations, and he's just been, again, the big broad smile. This is what you love. This is where all this innovation and the exchange of ideas starts. People have done the research, they come and share the knowledge with everybody, and it's taken on from there. So I am just delighted that this is what we've chosen as a tribute to him. I can't think of anything that he would have appreciated more. And I'm sure he's given us a big grin. We're basically on eyebrow. And I hope he can remain an inspiration for some time to come. So thank you all so much.
So when I was asked if I would say some closing remarks, I found myself struggling to find the right words. Not because they didn't exist, but because I felt by saying them, I would be saying goodbye. I know this is not going to happen. I've been here for the last year, I've felt the deep loss that everyone has felt. I know that Hakim will be remembered and will live on in every corner of this hospital. I hope we can continue to be inspired by him, be that through a kind word when it could have been less kind, giving time to one another when we have no time, simply smiling and acknowledging one another's efforts when no one acknowledges our own. We can continue what Hakim showed us and taught us for a long time to come, continuing not just his professional legacy, but his personal one too. I think everyone here has their own personal ways of knowing Hakim, remembering Hakim. And this seems like a good moment for us all just to take a moment of silence to remember him in each of our own personal ways. Hakim BenYounes, he was a talented surgeon, an inspirational leader, devoted husband, compassionate mentor, and above all else, a friend. We miss him every day because he was simply marvellous. Thank you.